Hello everyone, my name is Manoj Kandial. I'm part of Premier Support team. In this webinar, we will look at BHCO Gateway Server installation and configuration. Agenda for today's webinar is what components we need, where can we download those required components, install the components and configure them, and finally, where can we see reports and logs about the metrics collection. For Gateway Server, we need three components. First, a remote ETL engine. Second, the Gateway Server. And last, the agents to collect the metrics. Recommended to use dedicated server for Gateway Server. Before installing the Gateway Server, we will need to install the remote ETL engine on that server. Agents will go on to the servers from where we need to collect the metrics. Downloading the remote components are easy in BHCO. From BHCO console, go to Administration, System, and Download option. On this page, you will see all available downloads. By clicking Download button, you can download Remote ETL Installer, Gateway Server for Linux, and the Agent Installer. Agent Installer is available for various OS. You can select Record OS from the drop-down list and download the respective Agent Installer file. Downloaded files will be on your local system. Copy the downloaded files over to the Gateway Server machine. You may refer the BHCO document for the system requirements for each of these components. First, install the remote ETL engine. You will need information like tenant ID, access key, secret key, etc. Using the silent install option file, you can install silently. Once remote ETL engine is installed successfully, you can install the gateway server. After that, you can add the same gateway server from BHCO console. Lastly, you can install the agents on the machines from where you will need to collect the metrics. In the following demo, we will go over how to install the components and configure it. Before doing the installation, go over here the documents and make sure the system requirements are taken care. As you can see here, each of these documents will give you respective details. Let's look into ETL and gateway server details. This page will tell you the hardware requirements, supported OS and record libraries, sizing, etc. Please make sure all the requirements are met. Let us use this dedicated server for the ETL engine and the gateway server installation. On this server, in a temporary folder, I have copied over the downloaded two files. The first one for the ETL engine installer and the second one for the gateway server installer. These are the two files which I have earlier downloaded from the BHCO console. Let us extract the ETL installer. So the installer basically extract under the folder BCO disk 1. Let us go to the extracted folder, that is BCO/disk 1 folder, and here is the setup.sh file. We'll use it to run the installer, but before running that, we need to update our silent options file. So let's go into the folder silent installer templates. In this folder, you can see two files. The first option file is for uninstalling, and the second option file is for installing. So as we are installing, we'll use the second file. So let's see what is the content of this file. And this file contains the options for installing the remote ETL engine. So the first parameter is the install location. This tells where I would like to install the ETL engine. So in this case, by default, it has a location /opt/bmc/BCO. For demo purpose, I'll use the same. But if you would like to change the location, you can modify according to your requirements. Now, you must have this folder exist on your system in order to install that. Now, the second property is the URL host. This is the Helix host name. And there are a few other properties like tenant ID, access key, and access secret key. So we need all these property values as well. So let's look where we can get these values. Now let's collect access key, secret key, and tenant ID from BMC Helix portal. Click on user access and use users and keys. Go to access keys. Click on add key button and give a meaningful name. Then key type, retain access key, and then you can select the key expiration. Default there are 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or you can put a custom value, any date, or you can select a never expire. So for the demo purpose, I'm using a never expire, but you can select any one of these. And then click on confirm. You can give a description here if you would prefer. It's not a mandatory field. And then go to the roles and select capacity ETL client. Click on confirm. And now you can click on copy key details. So once you click, you get a message tenant ID and keys has been copied. Make sure you did copy the key details because once you come out of this screen, you cannot get the same secret key. You can still get the access key and the tenant ID, but you cannot get that secret key. That'll be in an encrypted format. And if you need to reuse it, then you have to regenerate the secret key, and that'll be different next time when you regenerate it. So make sure you clicked on copy the key details and save that into a file. And now you can click on the X mark. And if you look down under the keys, you should be able to see the key what you generated just now. And this is active now. And it says it never expires because we didn't give any specific days, number of days. And if you click on the action, key details, you can still do the copy key details, but that will be without the secret key. And if you would like to deactivate it later time, you can go here, you can deactivate it, or you can delete it. Let's look into the key format. First part is the access key. The second part is a secret key. And the last one is a tenant ID. So we can use these access key, secret key, and the tenant ID in the options file, and so that we can complete the installation. Now let's complete editing the options file, what we were doing earlier. So let's go and update the tenant ID from the information what we got from the Helix portal. So let's that. And then let's put the access key. So the access key is the first one. And then the secret key is the middle one. Now there's a one more property we need. That's a URL host. That's nothing but your BMC Helix portal URL. From the URL, you can copy the host name. I did just copy and paste here earlier, so we can use that and save it. So the first one we did look in the install location, and now we added the URL host, tenant ID, access key, and the secret key. Now there are more properties here. If you are using the proxy, then you should provide the proxy information. These two properties values, you can leave it as it is, false, and please do not modify anything underneath this. You can save and come out of this file. For the installation, we set the folder /opt/bmc/bco, and we haven't created that folder structure. So let's go ahead and create that structure. So we can see now the BCO folder is created under /opt/bmc. Let's check our options file name. And the file name is ho underscore additional underscore server underscore remote underscore e.txt. And that file, the options file exists in this folder. Let's go one level above. So we are in the disk1 folder and we have the setup.sh file here. So in order to install the remote ETL, the command we can run is setup.sh with the silent option file. So we can run / and then setup.sh dash the options underscore file, and then the full path and file name to the options file, and press enter. Now it started the installation. So it may take a couple of minutes, so let's just wait. Meanwhile, actually in the temp folder, there will be a log file, and you can tail that log file and see the actual the messages what is getting written into that log file. So because we are just using one session here, I will wait till this complete, and then we can look into the log file. Now it says a Helix optimized 24201 install succeed, and we are in the disk1 folder. So let's go to the temp folder and look what files are there. And there is a bco underscore install underscore log.txt. So you can see the full complete message here. And if you go to the very end of this file, you should see, the install succeeded. That means the remote ETL engine has been successfully installed. Now, as the ETL server installation succeeded, you can go on to the folder opt bmc bco and check the ETL server status by running the command cpit status, and you can see now it's running. It's saying the Helix optimized scheduler is running and it is done. So that it tells that the ETL server is up and running now. Now you can go to the BHCO console and go to administration system and status page, and you should see now that the ETL server is in a running state. And sometime it may take some time to appear as running. It depends on the component status checker when it runs. So once the component status checker is run and the status, you should see that it's in running state. So that means we have completed the ETL engine, remote ETL engine installation, and it is up and running now. Next, to install the gateway server. So let's extract the installer file. And the installer getting extracted under the Linux x86 underscore console folder. So let's cd to that folder, and the installer setup.sh is here. Now let's go to the folder silent, and this folder has 4 option files. The last file, ho underscore console silent install options.txt, that file we'll be using for the gateway server installation. Let us open and edit the silent option file. The first property or the parameter is install location. This tells the directory structure where we're going to install the gateway server. By default, it's a opt bmc patrol 3 folder. If you would like to install in a different location, you can modify that value. The next one is the BPA user. This tells the user under which the gateway server is going to get installed. So this user is the install user. Now, when you are going to execute the installer setup.sh file, either you can run the setup.sh as the user, in this case cpit, or as user root. Irrespective of that, the gateway server will be installed under the user cpit, because we are saying here BPA user is cpit. And if this user cpit does not have root privileges, and if the setup.sh was run by the user cpit, then at the end of the installation, a script need to be executed by the user root. The next one is perform agent start Unix. Default its value is false. This tells to start the agent after the installation. And if you would like to start it, you can change this to true. Otherwise, you can leave as it is the false there. That's fine. And then the next property is perform agent enable history, and default value is true. This tells that to enable the collection of historical data, and default is true. And if you would like to leave as true, it's fine. Otherwise, if you don't want to collect the history, then you can change that to false. We'll leave it as true. And the next one is perform create default link under the user ADM folder. The gateway server need to create the symbolic links. So this tells that yes, I would like to create the links there, and let's leave that as is true there. And the next one is the agent port, and depends on your requirements. You can either leave this same port number, or you can change the port number. And the next one is investigate port. As same as said earlier, you can either leave it as 6768, or you can change the port number, depends on your requirements. The next one is perform general manager port. This for again the perform general manager port number. It's by default 10129, and either you can leave as it is, or if you need to change, you can change that. And the agent service port is 10128. Either you can leave it same, or you can change it. Then the gateway proxy port is 10130. Agent history repository, that tells the directory path to store the historical data. By default, it uses /opt bmc patrol 3 perform history folder, and that's the reason why it is commented out here. If you would like to change that, you can uncomment and change the directory structure. Then the next one, the agent collect repository, that tells the directory path to store the data collected daily, and the default location is /opt bmc patrol 3 perform collect, and that's the reason why it is commented out. And if you would prefer to store in a different folder, then you can uncomment and change the location. There are more properties in this options file. Each of that property and the explanation is given in this document, install gateway server page, and you can refer that. And if you would prefer, you can change or retain the default values. We set install location is /opt/bmc/petrol3, and right now that folder does not exist. So we need to create that folder. So now we have the petrol3 exist under /opt/bmc, and we are ready to run the installation. Let's start the installation using the setup.sh from the Linux 86 console folder. And the command is /setup.sh -i silent -d options _ file, and then the full path and the file name of the options file. This can take a couple of minutes, and in the temp folder there will be a log file. You can tail that file and then see the status. And I mean, on the screen also you will see it, but more entries you will see in the log file. See on the screen the installation has been completed successfully, but let's go to the temp folder and check the log file, and the log file name is bp_install_log.txt. So let's open that file, and the very end you can see the message install succeeded, so that tells installation completed successfully. But as we ran the installation by the user cpit, and that user cpit does not have root privileges, in the log file you can see an error message, unable to run the blconfig 24200.sh script, must be run as root. This is basically because the installation was initiated by the user cpit, and the cpit user does not have the root privileges. And the location of this file is opt bmc petrol3 folder, that also you can see here. So let's come out of the log file, and we'll need to run that script as root user. So let's first su to root, and then go to the folder, and the set script file is here. So let's execute that one. It's asking press enter to continue, so enter. As you can see, the script did create the symbolic links and did start the general manager and agent as well. Let's verify the installation. So first let's check whether general manager is running. ps-af pipe rep ge, and that shows the general manager is running on port 10129. So the gateway server general manager is running now. And now let's also check the agent is up and running here. So we can do ps-af pipe grep bgs, and that shows the agent is also running. So on this gateway server, now the gateway server manager and the agents are running fine. Now let's verify the data collection part. First, let us set the environment variable best1_home. So in order to do that, let's check the user ADM folder content. Here you can see best1_24.2.00 is pointing to the installation location. So let's set the environment variable best1_home to point to the location. Now to test the connection to the agent, we can run this command. Connection to the agent, the query request is successful, so that means the connection to the agent is working fine. Now to initiate a data collection request, let's run this command. and the request is also successful. Now let's verify the status of the data collection. So for that, we will run this command, and that is also, the request is also successful. So that means the data collection also working fine between the gateway server and the agent. Now let's get on to an agent installation. So we are taking another server, a new server, to install the agent. And I've copied over the downloaded agent installer file on this new server. And let's extract it. So the file has been extracted to the temp folder. We have the install.sh file, and in the same folder we have an silent options file. So let's have a look into the silent options file. As we have seen in the gateway server, here also pretty much the same. And here the first one is the install location, and that we will maintain the same. And the BPA user default is performed, so we'll change that to cpit, as my user is cpit. And then the rest of the properties, I'm going to retain the default values. And for the more information regarding those properties, in document under the install continuous optimization agent has the details about each of these properties and what does that mean, and default values and things like that. So you can definitely refer that. Let us run the install script. So we need to make sure the install folder exists. So as we said, the install location is opt BMC Patrol 3. Let's make sure the folder structure exists. And we do have the directory Patrol 3 exist, and it's owned by cpit user. And we are in the temp folder where we have extracted the installer. So let's run the install.sh and pointing to the modified options file. So let's run, and the agent installation is very fast. It has been already completed. You can see the message here, install succeeded. And now it's also saying that the script need to be run as root user. So we'll run that. So in order to run the script, let us change the user. Let's run the script. Press enter to continue. So let's continue that. And this did create the symbolic link, and as well as you can see the message starting the agent, and it also shows it has acknowledged the query request successful, so the agent is up and running. Looks everything fine. So to make sure, you can run ps -ef pipe grep bgs, so you can see the agent is up and running here on this machine. As we have completed the installation of remote ETL engine, gateway server, and an agent, let's add that new gateway server into the BHCO console. So go to Administration, Gateway Manager, click on Gateway Servers, and click on Add Gateway Server. Click on the drop-down list, and there you can see the gateway server what we have just now installed. And then by default the port number it shows, that is what the actual port number we used. And the auto create ETLs to populate the data from this gateway server is default checked. It's recommended to use that, so that way you have less maintenance. You don't need to deal manually do any of the ETL part. It will automatically create an ETL for this gateway server in order to populate the data from the gateway server to the BHCO data warehouse. and click on add, and this will prompt you to the ETL wizards, some details related to the ETLs. So click on next. First option is number of manager runs per ETL. Default is 5. It's recommended to use a 5. We'll go over the manager runs down the line. So if the manager runs goes over 5, automatically it will create another ETL. And per ETL, the 5 manager runs will be handled. That's what is recommended. So you can click on next. On this page, the first question is regarding the entity catalog. So you can select the catalog, depends on your preference. And the next one is whether the entities discovered by this ETL, do you want to have it in the new domain? And if it is yes, then use the new domain. Otherwise, you can use the existing domain. So if it is a new domain, then you need to provide the domain name. And here, by default, it shows the gateway underscore and then the gateway server name. Either you can retain that or you can give whatever the name you want. And then the next option is split hierarchy by platform. So if you want to split based on the platform, you can say yes. Otherwise, you can say no. And if you go into the advanced option, the collection level, you can select whether any custom metrics profile you want to use it or a global metric profile, the normal ETL questions and levels up to, by default it's a standard. So if you want extended, then you can use 4 or whatever the choice you want. And then the task group, the ETL, whether you want under the gateway server ETL task group or another one, so you can pick that as well. And then the data type. So by default, it's a performance data only. So you can select more data like workload, detailed disk or network data, and user statistics or command statistics, things like that. So you can select whatever you want, and then you can click on next. On this page, this talks about at what time the ETL going to run and on which scheduler it's going to run. So right now it is showing the gateway server and the A8 AM. So click on next. I mean, if you want, you can modify definitely this, but otherwise you can retain that and click on next and click on finish. So now you are completing that gateway server, adding into the from the console, and you did request to create an ETL automatically there. So we have our gateway server already here, and earlier we did install the agents. So now we need to create an agent list so that we can tell this gateway server to collect the metrics from those specific agents. The first step is to create an agent list. It's a plain text file which contains number of machines in it. For the agent list, I have created a plain text file, demo agents, and it contains the agent what we created earlier. Now, if I need more agents to be added into this, either I can separate the names with a comma, or I can separate the agent names by line. And then I can save it. From the BHCO console, go to the administration, gateway manager, gateway servers, and click on the respective gateway server. And here you have an option, add the agent list. And right now, no agent list exists. So click on add. This wizard will help you to create a new agent list and configure to generate manager runs. So click on next, and you need to give a name here. So this is the name which will be appearing here on the BHCO console. So let's say demo agent list, and Now it's asking for a local file which contains the agent names. So let's say click on choose file, and let's select the file, the one we created earlier called demo agents, and click on upload. And it says upload completed. And let's click on next. And the target gateway server displays the name of the selected gateway server where you were adding the agent list. And in the agent list, it displays the name defined for the agent list. And here the gateway server data repository. Select or type the location to save the data collected by the agents. The default location is user ADM best one workspace repository. And if you would prefer, you can change that, but otherwise you can leave as it is. And the next one is the gateway server output folder. And that's basically the location to save the output of manager runs. And the default location is under the workspace results. And if you would like, you can change that as well. And the next two properties are the gateway server processing summarization interval. And default, it's a frequency 60 minutes where the gateway server summarizes the process data. And the agent summarization interval is by default 15 minutes, the frequency at which the agent must summarize the collected data. And if you would prefer to edit advanced settings, you can check this and click next. Here we have many options, and there are some default values already appearing here. If you would like, you can modify these values. So let's look what is agents per policy. This specifies the number of agents per policy file, and for the optimum performance and throughput, the default value is 25. If the number of agents in the agent list file is more than the number of agents per policy specified here, the multiple policies are automatically created. The next one, agents per manager run. This also for the optimum performance and the throughput. The default value is given 100. And if the number of agents in the agent list file is more than the number of agents per manager run, the multiple manager runs are automatically created. The next one is the workloads. The default location for the workload characterization file is given here. And if you would prefer your own workload characterization, you can check this and provide your characterization file location. So the next one is a time zone. If you don't specify any specific time zone, the data will be processed based on the time zone of the server from where the data was collected. Here you can specify whether you want to collect data according to the selected time zone. Otherwise, by default, data is collected according to the time zone of the managed system. And here is the data cleanup part. If you enable data compression and if you give the number of days here, after that many number of days, older data will be compressed on the gateway server. And same way, if you check the enable data deletion and for that specified after specified number of days, that data will be deleted from the gateway server. Is not the data on the BHCO. This is on the gateway server. Click on next and finish. You can see your defined agent list appearing here. From administration, gateway manager, and gateway servers or agent list, by going into either one of these, you can manage the agent list. So let's look from the agent list. This will list out all the agent list corresponding gateway server and on the gateway server where that agent list is stored. And you have three buttons here at the end. The last one is to delete that agent list. And the next one, the middle one, which is downloading the gateway server agent list. If you click on that, it will download this agent list on your local machine. And you can modify that agent list, adding more servers or removing servers which you don't need anymore. And then you can upload back clicking on this button. And by going into managed agents, you can see all the managed agent names and the gateway server name, corresponding manager run, and the policies. When we created the agent list, it automatically did create a manager run and it did schedule it. So if you go into view scheduled runs and select the gateway server, it'll show you the manager run which is created and scheduled. And if you click on this manager run, you can edit that. So these are the information which we did provide earlier. Now from the manager run, you can edit in case you want to modify any values and then click on save. And also you can create manually a run, manager run, by going into create run option and then schedule it. And if you would like to stop any of the scheduled runs, you can go here and then select respective gateway server and select respective manager run and then stop that. And if you would like to recover any of the manager run, you can go into status recovery and then you can recover specific manager run. And under the gateway reports, you can get the agent history. So this will show you if any errors, and if you want to see everything, you can click on show everything. Then it'll list out each run and what status it was. And exception report, we can select a gateway server and then it'll show you on particular server, the date wise, the exception report. And the same way the gateway logs, you can get the manager run logs. So it will show you, depends on the server, gateway server you selected and the run name, and then you can click on view and view the manager run log. Let us do a quick recap what we did today. We went over installing remote ETL, gateway server, and agent. Then registered the gateway server from BHCO console, created agent list, and made environment ready to collect metrics from targets. Finally, went over viewing gateway related reports and logs from console. For further information on install requirements, best practices, you can refer the following BMC documentation and knowledge articles. Thank you for attending this webinar. I hope you have found this information useful. Please subscribe our BMC official YouTube channel for accessing more videos and webinars.